Hi, I'm Taylor, a NexGen member here at MCM. Welcome to June. June is the first official month of summer, but did you know that June is also African American Music Appreciation Month? Originally called Black Music Month, African American Music Appreciation Month was started in 1978 from a movement by producer and songwriter Kenny Gramble, who wrote for various music legends such as Patti LaBelle and the Jackson 5. With the support of icons such as Stevie Wonder and Motown Records founder Berry Gordy, Gamble formed the Black Music Association and created Black Music Month according to the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. In 1979, the movement was backed by President Jimmy Carter, who declared June as Black Music Month and hosted the first ever Black Music Month celebration on the White House lawn. In 2000, Black Music Month was made official by the House Resolution 509, also known as the African American Music Bill, and then named African American Music Appreciation Month in 2009 by President Obama. AA Music Appreciation Month was created as a way of recognizing the importance of African American music to global culture and calling on the people of the United States to study, reflect on, and celebrate African American music according to the African American Music Bill. Take some time this month to celebrate by listening to African American artists, attending an event, or learning more about the history of African American music. Now, let's see what Montgomery County residents think of African American Music Appreciation Month and some of the music they're listening to. Hey guys, it's Taylor Hill, a NexGen member at MCM, and I'm here in Silver Spring, downtown Silver Spring, gonna ask some people some questions about African American Music Appreciation Month. See what they know, see what music they're listening to, Drake versus Kendrick, you know, all types of things. So, let's go. Okay, so what's your name?
Nyla.
Betty.
Deion Thompson.
Caden Thomas.
Sasha. So have you ever heard of African American Music Appreciation Month?
Yes.
No, nope, I have not.
I have not actually.
I have heard of that before.
I haven't.
Okay, so it's African American Music Appreciation Month, takes place in June. It was created by Jimmy Carter in 1979, just to, you know, celebrate Black music, culture, and, you know, just recognize it. So what are some of your favorite African American artists?
I like the Isley Brothers.
Okay, yeah.
I like Usher.
I like listening to Lil Baby. You know, that's African American.
I don't know if this counts. I like Stevie Wonder.
That definitely counts.
I like Smokey Robinson.
I like listening to some Rod Wave too.
A lot of the guys in like the early 2000s are like my favorite artists for African American music.
And No Savage.
Skindred.
I like Jill Scott.
DMV artists and stuff like that. Nino Pay.
Outcasts.
Yep, definitely. These are some great classics right here, banger after banger. Slick Rick, okay, old school. I like that. I like the vibe. Okay, great.
It's quite a few.
Okay, great.
Oldie but goodies.
I grew up on a lot of them because my mother really likes that kind of music.
I'm a Drake guy.
Ooh, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, SZA. Those are probably my top three right now.
And that's a solid top three. So you would say Drake over Kendrick?
Oh, absolutely. Like, no question, Drake over Kendrick.
Cut the interview right quick. Okay, well, you know, all opinions are valid.
He's like the LeBron James, man. Like he generational. He started his own trend and everything like that, man. He's just a GOAT to me.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You know, that's a valid answer. I respect that. So piggybacking off of that, why do you like the artists that you like? Like, why do you like listening to their music?
I listen to music that has, I don't know if bass is the right word, but it has a lot of sort of thumping noises and a sort of chaotic rhythm where it doesn't necessarily match one thing.
Well, I just like the beat of their music, and I like some of the words in their songs. They just, like with Jill Scott, some of the songs is kind of easy to kind of groove to and relax with, and Isley Brothers, it's like old school. I like their songs, their lyrics, and their music kind of fun.
I mean, Rod Wave, he really be touching the, you feel me? He be touching the souls for, and Lil Baby, he could just hop on any beat and just go crazy. And No Savage, he just be talking about, you know, a whole bunch of different things and stuff. But yeah, my taste is really like expanded I like listening to all different types of music.
Because their lyrics make sense most of the time. They're very smooth, they're very suave. They know how to represent themselves without, you know, drugs and, you know, all that craziness that like other artists do. I respect like those rappers, you know, like Kodak Black and, you know, guys like that, but, you know, something about the way they carry themselves as African American men versus like some of the other artists represent me a little bit better.
Okay.
Yep.
Snooze by SZA is my favorite. I like Huntin' Wabbits by J. Cole. And by Kendrick, Poetic Justice. I gotta go back to the original.
I like songs that tell a story. And you know Children's Story by Slick Rick?
Of course.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I like songs that tell stories. That's a lot of metal music, so I like metal music. I like Alice in Chains. And Skindred is so good. I grew up on Stevie Wonder. I don't know, just songs that sort of tell stories, sort of deep personal stories, but that you can also sort of move up and down to or mosh to. Yeah,
Okay.
I like moshing a lot.
Just like I said, I'm a suave guy. I'm a cool, chill, laid-back guy. Listen to good music. I just have a good time. Everybody has a good time. I feel like people can walk up to me and talk to me and seem pretty friendly. A lot of those songs they do, same thing. So I think that's about sums it up for me.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's a great thing. Music is meant to make you move and everything. And so, how do you feel that music allows you to express yourself?
I kind of write play a little lyrics and stuff. And as far as that, when I do my lyrics, I express myself in my lyrics because I always write about things that I'm going through or what's happening in the world. Just when how I feel, and I take and write my little poems and my little lyrics, but they never got out there, but that's what I do. So music do touch you and make you feel good and make you be able to express yourself.
Yeah, expressing how I feel in that moment, maybe, depending on the vibe.
I would say parties would probably be the number one way. When I'm hanging out with friends, we go on road trips and stuff. Obviously listening to the radio is a big thing. Beach parties, frat houses, stuff like that I've done. Just friends, just people. That's what brings everybody together, in my opinion, is just the music. So just definitely hanging out with different people, I would say.
Sometimes I go to parties and stuff, and they be cranking a whole bunch of different types of music, and I express myself with music then.
Yeah. Okay. So you would say your favorite way to enjoy music is at parties or with friends?
And stuff, yeah, with friends and stuff. Or say if I'm just, chilling or something by myself. I'll listen to music in my headphones going to the gym.
I like to listen to it while I'm doing other things. It kind of makes me feel like the other things I'm doing are less of a chore. So if I'm folding laundry, it's less of a chore if I'm listening to music. If I'm driving, it's less of a chore if I'm listening to music.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Thank you so much. That's really great.
No problem.
Okay,
Thank you for
cool.
asking questions.
No
Thank
problem.
You for being out here promoting this. I didn't know this was a month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now that you've heard from some Montgomery County residents, check out what local artist Troy IV has to say. Hi, I'm Taylor, a MCM NexGen member, and in honor of African American Music Appreciation Month, I'm going to be sitting down with the local artists. So could you introduce yourself for us, please?
For sure, yeah. My name's Troy IV. I'm a R&B and rap artist from the area. I grew up in Cheverly, so I was born and raised in PG County. Live in Silver Spring now, so. But yeah, I've been making music for over 10 years now, probably more like 12 or 13. So yeah, a lot of history. We go way back.
Yes. Okay, so how did you get started in music?
So it's funny, I've always been a fan of music, but I never really at least back then, I didn't start making music with the idea of, oh, I'm gonna be an artist or anything like that. It kind of just found me. I have an older brother who is a singer too, and he was really into it back in the day. This was back when I was maybe 13, he was 15, and one of his friends put the music making software on my family computer, and I kind of took it upon myself to just start making beats on it. And then, I'm showing my friends and my brother and everything, and they all loved it, so it kind of just, kept the momentum going for me there. And I started off, making beats, but maybe 2-3 years into that, I started experimenting with my voice, and listening back, it sounds awful, but you got to start from somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Where would you say that how would you describe your music, or the type of music you make, the genre? How would you describe that?
Yeah, it's chill alternative R&B. I feel like, I'm trying to think of ways to or things to compare it to. I feel like Solange is a good one, or maybe, Drake, for better or worse, is one. I take a lot of inspiration from hip hop. So and especially sampling, I did back in the day a lot. So Kanye, another one, for better or worse. Frank Ocean too. is a big influence for me. And recently I've really liked Lucky Day too, so I take a lot of inspiration from him.
Yeah, those are good ones, and that's so funny. Like, you literally answered my next question, because I was gonna ask you about like some artists or like people that you draw inspiration from.
Right.
So do you feel like those people, like, you draw inspiration from like just their music, or do you feel like it kind of shows in your music as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I just kind of like passively consume that kind of music and, kind of have my own taste. And I feel like it's hard to really compare my music to theirs because it's really not the same. Like, I've been kind of doing my own thing with music, like not necessarily trying to sound like anybody for, the entirety of me making music. Like, it was a way for me to kind of find my own voice. Even before I started recording my voice, it was like another form of communication and self-expression, and I feel like I leaned into that to like help develop my individuality as a kid and a high schooler into college and into now. So
Yeah, so do you feel like your music is kind of a way of you to like express yourself, or you express yourself through your music?
yeah, definitely, and especially since I've started like recording lyrics and melodies, like it's like one of those things that lyrics will come out of you without even realizing like those thoughts were sitting inside of you until, the melody or the beat or whatever kind of like spurned it to come out.
So what draws you to make music? Is it that, like, the melody and the lyrics and everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the feeling, the feeling of being understood, even if it's just by myself in the current moment, but like just having those realizations that I feel like are important to me, and help me grow as a person, and like, seeing the growth from, if I listen to a song from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I can hear that I was on the path to where I am now, but like, if I were able to listen to what I'm making now, like 5 or 10 years ago, I'd be like awestruck at where I'm at now. And I think that is kind of what keeps me going, is to like think about the potential of how good my music could be, or how much I would like it in, another 5 years.
Yeah. So with that, like, when you think of other people like listening to your music, like, what is it that you want them to like get from that, or like experience from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a tough thing when you start bringing in like other people into your world, and like the vulnerability that comes with that. And I think it can be hard to release music, especially when you're writing from like an introspective place, like, in an honest place. It is kind of like letting people read your diary almost. And I think, it's scary, but I think those are the kinds of things you need to do in life, is be expressive of who you actually are. And, I think that is one thing that I like to do and try to encourage other people to do, and be an example of that with my music.
Yeah, so like music is very just like, something that's very vulnerable, especially like if you're making your own, and like being able to like share everything, and like there's a certain like, like rawness.
Yeah. And there's a balance too, you don't want to have everything be like existential, people want to have fun too. So like I do try to incorporate that in my music too, just like more lighthearted stuff, but it kind of ebbs and flows a bit, Sometimes you feel like, oh, I've been making too much like happy-go-lucky music, and like, is this really how I feel? And like kind of dig deeper. And I think that's what I really like the most, is get into those like realizations, and like, yeah, just being able to learn about yourself.
Yeah, the versatility of it all is like, do I want to dance today, or do I want to talk about my feelings?
I love being able to do both, honestly, so.
That's good, it's great to be versatile. So how would you like describe your journey with music, like just like where you started versus how and where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, as I was talking about earlier, I feel like, early on especially, it was really important for me to have an outlet like music. I was definitely like a shy kid, especially back then. I still got that in me now, but, definitely been growing with that. And I think music has helped me do that, like kind of find my voice and, because, you know, sometimes you don't want to yell, you don't want to scream, you don't want to sing as loud as you want to, even if you're in the confines of your own home. Like, you have that, like, you know, inner, like, ceiling that you don't want to go over. And, like, when you allow yourself to do that, I think it kind of trickles into other areas of your life, too, of just being able to have more self-belief and believe in your voice and your perspective and things like that. So that's kind of what got me started. And, you know, I think just having that, like, looming, I wouldn't say fear, but, like, you know, just the uncomfortable, like, getting out of your comfort zone, like, that is something I've had to deal with ever since I started making music. And it's been something that's gotten me, like, out of my shell and, like, just kind of exposed my potential and my power, just being able to lean more and more into it.
Was it ever hard for you to, like, release your music, like, to let it out into, like, the world or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it always is, you know, you always feel good about everything that you're making until it's time to release it, and then you start getting second thoughts and you want to change things and be a perfectionist. But yeah, I mean, you know, that never stopped me in the past. I mean, in the past, what I deemed as perfect, I'll listen back and, you know, there are flaws to it, of course. But yeah, it's like, you know, at some point you do have to feel good about just wiping your hands clean and, like, letting the music and the art be what it is.
Do you feel like music then, like, releasing music is helpful and, like, being able to let go, or kind of just teaching you to, like, create without, like, boundaries or, like, holding yourself back?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, again, it's like leaning into what you think is good. You know, at the end of the day, it's your music, it's your art. If anyone else, you know, if no one else is gonna like it, it should be you who is able to put their stamp on it. So that's kind of what I, you know, try to take away and, you know, keep ingrained in me, is that, you know, I'm doing it for me, and, like, if I like it, that is enough. And if I like it, naturally, I think other people will too. You know, the people who gravitate towards it are the people who are supposed to find it.
Yeah. Do you have, like, any other obstacles that you face, like, on your journey, or even, like, now, like, as a musician?
Yeah, I mean, every day, if you solve one problem, another one is gonna arise. So, you know, and I think it's good to have problems that you choose to, you know, deal with. It's better than having problems you don't have to. But I mean, some of those problems, I mean, it's kind of always the same thing. Like, how are people gonna take this? Is this, like, something that I really like? You know, what am I, like, ignoring? Like, what am I, you know, turning a blind eye to that could hinder my improvement? You know, do I feel like I'm trying my best every day? Like, am I making the space and time for it? It's all stuff you kind of have to deal with, no matter how, like, where you are in the process. So
you feel like your obstacles have been more kind of, like, I guess, internal more so than, like, external forces, like, stopping you from making music or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's always internal. Like, we're gonna be our own worst critic and also our biggest enemy. You know, we could be our biggest supporter too, and that's the way it should be. But, you know, that's obviously, we're gonna have to deal with that voice in our head that, you know, is questioning things, and, you know, it's there for a reason. And, you know, you gotta take the best parts of it and apply, you know, things that'll help you get better.
Okay, so on the opposite end of that, like, what did you have, like, a moment that you're most proud of as an artist?
You know, I feel like my most proudest moments have been when I've failed miserably, almost. Like, you know, you get up on stage and, like, it's hundreds of people looking at you and you've been preparing and, like, something goes wrong. But, you know, even if that happens, you can still be like, well, I tried and I got here, and the only way I could have failed in that moment is by putting myself out there to begin with.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And what are some things that you do now, like, as an artist? Like, what are some ways that you, I guess, like, express your music, or just, like, what are your outlets as an artist?
Well, I mean, the music obviously is one, and then, like, the videos and content and, you know, talking with people too. I mean, I think this would be an outlet too for me to be able to kind of tell my story and like where my head is at and my perspective. And yeah, I mean, you know, I'm leaning more into like creating like event planning and things like that. Like we have an open mic going on in Silver Spring every month now at the Firehouse Station. And yeah, it's like an opportunity for me to like cultivate a space for other artists to kind of, you know, build up their craft and, you know, have more feedback and support from the community.
And what do you like? What's your thoughts on the scene, like the music scene here in like Silver Spring or Montgomery County? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's just spread out. Like, you know, it's a small area, but you know, you just have to make the connections. You have to go outside, and you know, everyone has their groups of people that they like to hang out with, and you know, you just got to experiment, get out there, and like try to make new stuff with new people. You know, like get out of the comfort zone of like working with your friends and like reach out to people who you also like, because there are really a lot of good artists out here, and you know, I think more collaboration would benefit everybody.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's like easy to get like kind of plugged in the community, or is it kind of like more difficult?
I mean, you know, a lot of stuff will be word of mouth, and you know, there's stuff on social media too, but again, it's like, you know, the things you see are gonna be biased by the people you know, and you know, the things that you feel inclined that you should go to is the same thing. So I think everything's out there. You know, there's probably plenty of stuff happening within a 5-mile radius. You just gotta know where to look.
So yeah, like that's great that you're getting like plugged in with the community and everything. So being a Black artist, do you feel like there are things that like make that your journey as an artist like different, or your experience different, or anything like that?
I mean, I think it does like color things, you know, like just my experiences and, you know, things like that I can pull from and towards. And yeah, I think, you know, I collaborate with a lot of other Black artists around here, and, you know, try to extend opportunities to them as much as I can, like with the open mic and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like a lot of my community, you know, is Black, so, you know, oftentimes any of my collaborations are gonna be Black, you know. So, you know, trying to think, you know, obviously there are trials and tribulations I have to deal with, and like, you know, maybe spaces that are harder for us to get into naturally. But, you know, it's another one of those like ceilings that you want to acknowledge, but also try to find ways to break through and, you know, have success despite, and maybe also as a result of.
Yeah, as a Black artist, are there any like other Black artists that you feel like you're drawing inspiration from, or even like aspire to be like, even if not like in sound and message, or like in like actions that they do?
I mean, I think literally all the artists I named that I get inspiration from are Black. So again, like naturally, all of my like perspective is probably gonna be like heavily colored by that. I think, you know, I love Solange and the way she talks about, you know, things that she's going through, and, you know, the kinds of messages she includes. I mean, Kendrick obviously too is like at the forefront of that. And, you know, I think there are a whole bunch of different ways to talk about your experience, and, you know, definitely like taking a lot from my predecessors, but you know, just finding a way to have that color my sound and my music, I think is something I'm always actively trying to do. You know, finding ways to talk to my unique experience. You know, Black people aren't a monolith, and you know, we all experience things differently, and I think that is important to acknowledge, but there is a lot of commonality between everybody.
Yeah, that's good. I like that you said that like, you know, there isn't one style or one story, especially when it comes to Black music, or Black artists, because at the end of the day, like, we're just musicians who are Black, so not everybody's gonna have the same tailored experience or everything.
Exactly.
But that being said, there are also still a lot of similarities in like music and spaces and experiences that you may share. So that's really, really good. And do you have like a favorite, like, I don't know, for African American Music Appreciation Month, like it's about appreciation. So do you have anything about like Black music or like the history of Black music that you feel like just really speaks to you, or is like your favorite thing about African American music?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on it, obviously. Like my dad is playing like Marvin Gaye and, Motown and all sorts of music like that. Luther Vandross, so it's all there for me. I think Marvin Gaye is probably one of the biggest ones that I could point to and like really appreciate the way that he talked about things and kind of like colored his struggles, like especially back in like the 70s when things were not nearly as close to how things are now. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just how you sing too, just like the pain and the struggle you can hear in a way somebody sings that like really speaks to me too. And I think Marvin Gaye, the What's Going On album is definitely like one of the biggest ones for me.
Okay, and then like where do you see yourself like going next? Like if you're just like talking about your future self or where you want to go, like where do you see yourself as an artist?
Yeah, I mean, just diving deeper, doubling down more, taking more risks. Putting myself out there more, whether it's like reaching out to bigger artists to see if I can open for them, or just leaning more into like developing my sound and my craft and everything, and developing the content, making myself easier to see and be more accessible to new people. I think those are probably the big pillars of like what's next for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, thank you so much for your time in this chat. Like, this is really great just to kind of pick your brain, I guess.
Yeah.
As a local, artist, getting your music in, do you have any, like, projects you want to, like, shout out or, like, something you've been working on?
Well, the open mic in Silver Spring, that is happening every third Friday of each month. So the next one is May 23rd. So that's a big thing that we've been doing recently, just to build up more community, find more artists to connect with. But me personally, I'm trying to release more singles this year. So I probably will have a single coming out in June. It's called Stop Doubting Me. And it's actually me talking to myself almost. But yeah, that's probably the next thing to look out for me.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been really great.
Thank you. I wish we had more time. I like talking, so.
Got to do it again.
Yeah, for sure.